You know, his response was always, this works really well as a short sketch.
Right.
But in 2019, I just got like a random email from Al one morning that said, yeah, I think maybe it's time to turn this into a real movie. I think he was trying to figure out what his next move was going to be in his career. You know, he just released this big career retrospective box set, and he said, maybe we can do this movie together. And you know, we were off to the races. We met up the next morning and started.
Is that right? You were ready. You were. Were you ready for 9 years?
I think yeah, like on a subconscious level, I was waiting 9 years for that email to show up.
I've heard enough.
And what did you think?
Do you know why they call it the music business?
Why?
Because it's a business.
It's a business.
Use your head, kid. Nobody wants to hear a parody song when they can hear the real thing for the same price. What's the point?
Yeah, it makes no financial sense whatsoever.
My song was actually a big hit on the Captain Buffoon show.
What? Oh,
Captain Buffoon?
really?
Yeah.
Wait. Captain Buffoon actually played your song on the radio?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us? This changes everything. Ben, get this young gentleman a record contract this very instant. We are going to sign him to a 14-album deal.
Wait, really?
No! What do you think I am, an idiot?
He's not an idiot.
I'm not an idiot.
Welcome to Behind the Lens. Today, he is responsible for what? 12 Emmy nominations this year. Between 8 for Outstanding Television Movie, Weird, the Al Yankovic story on Roku, and 4 other nominations for another series with Roku now that he's also very associated with, called Die Hart 2. And congratulations, welcome to Eric Appel.
Thanks, yeah, thanks for having me.
How does that feel? 12 Emmy nominations over 2 of your shows.
I mean, it's incredible. It was a surreal morning to see all those nominations.
Yeah, did you expect it, or?
I mean, you never expect to get nominated for anything. You know, the best you can hope for is that people, the projects you make resonate with audiences, and that people, you know, like what you're putting out, and you know, you're not embarrassing yourself by what you're making, and it's not ending your career.
Yeah.
So you know, to receive nominations like this, it's amazing. And earlier this year too, with the you know, with Critics' Choice Awards and all these things
That's my group.
Yeah,
Critics'
yeah.
Choice,
For Weird, it was just.
And also the Directors Guild and the Writers Guild.
Yeah, that's another, to be nominated by your peers is just so huge as well. It's been a great year for that.
Isn't it the way this movie just hit? I was in Toronto when it premiered, and of course it went on to win the Midnight Madness Audience Award.
Yeah.
And those Audience Awards in Toronto are key. They are very predictive, certainly for movies, and apparently for television Emmys here too, because what goes in Toronto continues.
Yeah, Toronto was an incredible experience too, and also just to. We didn't do test screenings. We edited this movie during COVID. You know, we didn't put it in front of big audiences. So the first time I saw it with a crowd was in Toronto, with 1,200 people in the audience. So it was a very nerve-wracking experience, but just amazing to see how well it played there too. Yeah.
I played incredibly well.
It was like a rock concert.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that has to feel good as a director and writer and all of that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, how did this come about? It's such an interesting story. This actually goes back a decade, at least, when you first did the first part of this little journey.
Yeah, I made a fake movie trailer when I was working at the website Funny or Die.
Fake movie trailer for a fake biopic.
For a fake biopic about a real person, yeah. So that was sort of the joke, is that it's a biopic about someone who is still alive,
right?
And but all the events of their life are completely fabricated, and that was the idea behind
Not
the trailer.
unlike a lot of Hollywood biopics I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. It was sort of
except they're dead.
Exactly. Yeah, it was taking something that's already true about biopics and just sort of blowing it out. But you know, I didn't know Weird Al before then. I was a big fan of his growing up. I reached out to him through Patton Oswalt, who I had directed a video that he wrote recently before that. And I reached out just to get Al's blessing, because I felt like this is an idea that he maybe would have done himself, and I didn't want to step on any toes. So I had Patton reach out to him for me, and Al came back to me and was like, I'd love to collaborate on this thing.
Wow.
Which was so mind-blowing, being such a big fan of his. We went out for coffee that night and started batting around ideas, watched a bunch of biopic trailers and sort of found what all the tropes are and picked out our favorite moments. And Aaron Paul and Olivia Wilde were played Weird Al and Madonna in the original trailer.
Oh, that's wild.
And it did well on the internet, and Al showed it at his concerts for like a decade.
Oh, he did.
Every summer when he'd go on tour, during a costume change, this trailer would play. People would come up to him after the show and ask, is this movie real? Or if it's not, can it be? And finally, his response was always, this works really well as a short sketch.
Right.
But in 2019, I just got like a random email from Al one morning that said, I think maybe it's time to turn this into a real movie. I think he was trying to figure out what his next move was going to be in his career. He'd just released this big career retrospective box set, and he said, maybe we can do this movie together. And we were off to the races. We met up the next morning and started.
Is that right? You were ready. Were you ready for 9 years?
I think, on a subconscious level, I was waiting 9 years for that email to show up.
Well, a lot of your big break was with Funny or Die, with doing these kind of short things, which I thought was a really interesting way in to directing and writing and all of that, is to do these shorts.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of a way in that doesn't exist anymore. This was like Funny or Die was pre-TikTok and Instagram, and it was only a few years after YouTube had come out. At the time, I started out at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater as an improviser and performer, and I was writing sketches in the early 2000s. And that led to a couple, TV writing gigs on like cable shows. But Funny or Die is where I really, I decided to pick up a camera and figure out how to do the directing part.
And then you did sitcoms, you did Silicon Valley, a lot of top shows. You moved into that, and you were ready by the time Weird Al came around to, let's do a movie. Yeah,
it's, I feel like in so many careers, it's a lot of, it's timing, it's luck, it's a lot of happy accidents that occur. Obviously you have to be doing the work, but all of these things sort of one leads to another. My time at the Upright Citizens Brigade is what led me to Funny or Die. Like, there were connections I had made at UCB that were at Funny or Die. And then leaving Funny or Die, it's like the same thing happened. I kind of, people from my time at UCB were working on some TV shows, which got me in the door there. And my first network television episode I directed was The Office, like my very first. It was the second to last season of The Office.
Oh my God.
And I kind of lucked out there too. I had a general meeting at 3 Arts, and a slot for this one Office episode happened to open up that was like 2 weeks away. And I knew some people and had worked with some people from UCB who were in the cast of The Office at the time. Ellie Kemper was, the two of us were in an improv group together years ago.
Oh my God.
And Zach Woods and Ed Helms I had worked with. So it was kind of this right place, right time. I got asked, are you doing anything in 2 weeks? Can you come direct this episode of The Office?
Oh my God.
And that ended up being such a great experience. And then people from my experience working on The Office, were leaving and doing other things, which led to my next thing. And, everything kind of builds on.
The show business story. It's being in the right place and knowing the right people.
Yeah, it's really, and then, that led to, I did sitcoms for a few years. Some shows like The Office, New Girl, many that were canceled after 9 episodes.
After you directed them?
I mean, I had a couple where my episode didn't even air. It's like the show. Yeah. There were a couple of shows that like got
Oh my God.
pulled off the air in episode 5, and mine was like the 9th.
Oh God. That's something.
Yeah. So I directed. There was one show. Animal Practice. Do you remember this show?
I do.
Actually. I was in the middle of directing it when it got canceled. Like I was on set on day 3, and we read on deadline on set.
We're always here with the scoops, folks. Even if you don't want to hear them.
Yeah, the writer of the episode turned to me and showed me her phone, and it was a Deadline article that said NBC's pulling the plug on Animal Practice, and it was like, does anyone know about this yet? Like they hadn't even made it down to set to tell people.
Oh my God! So we did.
And yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about
the news
that.
broke. Yeah.
So working with Weird Al, though, you're nominated for 8 Emmys. I can tell you, as an aficionado of watching the Emmy categories and things, best television movie. Usually, at the most, Dolly Parton gets 2 nominations or something. It's the ignored category, limited series. It's it gets all the writing and directing. Not this year. I mean, no, you've got 8 nominations. The most for a original television movie in that category. I can't think of the last time.
I know that kind of blew me. But yeah, like Behind the Candelabras, like one maybe, right?
Yeah, maybe
that, like,
if you're going
through.
way back. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the most surprising thing. Is that I mean I figured we would at least get a nomination for best movie made for TV. All of those other sharing that category with limited series and anthology series, which are just like typically these prestige programs that they
dominated completely.
Yeah,
in the writing and directing categories, and here you are nominated for writing, and there's 3 television movies that are of the 6 nominees, and you and Weird Al are nominated together. I bet you never could have imagined that combo at the Emmys, right?
No. And it's so cool also, like obviously making this movie with Al, we became close, but now to have these awards that showing up with a tuxedo with Weird Al next to me, it's like we are truly bonded together forever in this experience.
It's really amazing. What was he like as a co-writer?
Just incredible. I mean, growing up being a fan of his, my comedic sensibilities were shaped by this man. Like I really played the heck out of those albums. Off the Deep End was like the big one that I got when I was, I think, 11 or 12 years old.
Right.
And I mean, just like wore the tape out. So to get to actually sit down in a room with him and come up with jokes and come up with things that make the both of us laugh. I mean, it's such a unique experience that, like, who gets that experience?
Right.
Like, who gets to work with their heroes? It's just, I mean, I'm so eternally grateful for the opportunity to.
And such a great idea. The mind runs free here. Madonna. You just can put Madonna in this and make up a whole story between her and all of those guest star cameos that you had in this. Amazing as well. Now, Weird Al re-recorded all the songs. It is him singing. It's not Daniel Radcliffe.
Correct. Yeah.
Why was that decision made? Because Daniel Radcliffe is a Broadway star and he can sing.
Yeah, we thought it was just funny to hear Al's voice coming from Dan.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always funny because I mean that is a thing that happens in a lot of biopics
all the
too.
time.
Yeah,
all
they're lip syncing. So the idea to re-record them was to do kind of truncated versions of the songs because we knew we wouldn't play like a complete song, and based on where the scene was, these songs had different arrangements. One's like out in a backyard pool party. One is supposed to sound like it's in a really small like biker bar. So and we had to do that whole. There's this. Jim Morrison, drunken meltdown sequence where we had to go in and like record the band doing this Doors groove. For me, that was one of the coolest parts, getting to go into the recording studio.
Yeah.
with Al and the band, you know, and I was there for the recording of that Doors part, you know, because Al, all the dialogue that Daniel has in that scene, for timing purposes, Al read that while the band was recording. So I had to be there to sort of direct the,
Oh my God.
to make sure the pace of all that was correct. And then when Al mixed the new versions of the songs, you know, I was the first person that got to hear those. So that was an incredible experience as well.
I'll bet.
Getting that email from Al one night, you know, that's like, hey, you're the first person in the world to hear these mixes that are going to be on our soundtrack album.
Wow.
And again, as a fan, it was just such an incredible thing
You can't go wrong. And I have to
get.
say, Evan Rachel Wood is great as Madonna. Did you ever hear from the real Madonna? Did she see it?
We have not heard from the real Madonna.
Madonna, you got to check out this movie.
I want Madonna to see it. I feel like Madonna would find it funny.
Yeah, I hope so.
And I mean, Evan's performance is so fun, and obviously, you know, it's not based on the real Madonna. It's based on like the idea of Madonna.
Right, exactly.
You know, this is, I said before, Evan plays the version of Madonna that like my grandma thinks that's what Madonna is actually like. It's sort of this evil succubus.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like a surgeon and all of that. Before we go, I have to talk about Die Hard. This is such an interesting journey that this show has taken with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
And it is now nominated for, let me see, all the actors, Paul Appel and Ben Schwartz, Natalie Emmanuel, and Kevin Hart, all up in the short film comedy or drama series categories. They dominate them, actually.
It's crazy.
I mean, this is crazy, right? 4 of the 6 or 8 nominees.
Yeah.
More than that, yeah. Are
yeah, I think there's 6 nominees.
Yeah, there's 6 nominees total. 4 of them are from your show.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, the life of Die Hard has been wild. It started as a Quibi.
As Quibi, remember?
show.
Boy, that's a blast from the recent past. But
Yeah.
Quibi, the failed short watch things on your phone for 10 minutes idea.
Yeah, it's funny. Die Hard came out in like the second wave of Quibi content. So unfortunately, Quibi already had one foot in the grave when we came out. And I think, Quibi went away maybe a month after Die Hard debuted. So
it's a running theme with your career.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so nobody really got to see it when it was there. Thankfully, Roku bought Quibi's whole content library, and then when it came out on Roku, it like overperformed for them. I think it was like the best piece of original content that they had at that point. So they greenlit a second one, and it's wild that's another thing. It's like never in a million years did I expect that the second Die Hard was going to get nominated for awards, but here we are. I mean, the cast is fantastic, and they absolutely deserve it. I mean, I think. Their performances were incredible. They're all so funny.
And Kevin Hart, sort of like also in the theme of pretending to be other things here, is pretending to be a major action star.
Yeah. He's playing sort of like a bizarro version of himself.
Right.
In a world where he in the sequel to Die Hard, he had become the biggest action star in the world,
right.
And he's looking for like a more authentic action experience.
But you have to actually shoot. I've seen this show.
Yeah.
These are major stunts and action scenes. This is like a big movie.
Yeah. I mean, like our stunt coordinator on the second one, David Koch, he does Marvel and stuff like that. Yeah, like he knew Ben Schwartz already from working on Renfield. Like he does these major Hollywood movies, and he's such an amazing stunt coordinator and fight choreographer. That's a lot of this. It's like the comedy comes naturally for all of us.
Right.
Like that's the easy part, and then we have to do these big fight sequences and stunt sequences, and that's part of like what's the most fun for me. Is getting to kind of break outside the mold. And even with Weird, it's like, I've done comedy for my whole career, but Weird is it looks and feels like a drama,
Right.
but it's comedic, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the
What makes these things work.
That's the thing that I love to do, is sort of combine these genres and really lean hard into those aspects that aren't fully comedic, to support and heighten the comedy.
And after Quibi died and the stuff you had shot, which was designed in 10-minute increments to be watched that way, you actually turned it into Die Hart the movie, right? And it was like on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that was kind of always the intention, that, you know, this model that Quibi had, which was that you were, and that's how it got pitched to me when I got hired to direct Die Hart. It was like, you're going to be making a movie, and it's going to be shot like a movie. But it's going to be split up into these 10-minute increments that the intention was always, after the 2 years or so that Quibi would exhibit this as short form content, that it would be, you know, stitched together as a feature, and then it could go anywhere. And in the case of Die Hart, it went to Amazon, like, globally.
Technical achievement.
Yeah,
there.
and also to do, you know, we shot the whole thing in 20 days, I think.
Wow. And you did
Weird was in 18.
18.
Yeah.
They gave you a month. You'd be killer.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope my next thing doesn't have 16 days.
Right.
You know, that's my pattern. You know, it keeps getting shorter and shorter.
Are we going to see Die Hard 3?
There will be a Die Hard 3. Unfortunately, I am not going to be. There was a conflict with timing, and then because of the strikes,
right,
everything got pushed around anyway. So maybe I would have been available, but yeah, I'm not working on the third installment.
Well, pretty impressive stuff here, and best of luck at the Emmys whenever they may be held.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a bizarro year for that. I said it feels like when the Dodgers won the World Series, it was during that weird COVID baseball year. It's like, this feels like award season's version of that. But
go figure. Well deserved. Thanks for joining us here on Behind the Lens, Eric Appel.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.